Is it recorded? So we have now the participants are joining in. We'll just give 1 minute to it so that more people can join in. We have a huge registration, so we are expecting a larger number of participation. Just waiting for giving 1 minute to everyone to join in, log in, and then we will proceed. Namaste, everyone. We bring you another exciting webinar, which is second in the webinar series of Safeguarding Nature in Tiger Range Countries. In the current webinar, we will explore the fabrics of conservation of tiger and its habitat in Bhutan, along with models for financing these programs. Tiger conservation brings to forefront the various challenges, especially due to geography and habitat. We, WWF and Global Tiger Forum, have curated this webinar series to understand these challenges and also take stock of available opportunities to overcome the same across various tiger range countries. In the next hour session, we have 3 very interesting presentations, which will be approximately 15 minutes each. We request participants to post questions in the chat box. We would request panelists for the answers in the discussion at the end of the webinar. With this, we again welcome you to the webinar. Here is the keynote remark from Dr. Mary Melnyk. Dr. Mary Melnyk is the Environmental Security and Resilience Division Chief for USAID Asia Bureau and has 30 years experience working on community development, biodiversity conservation, and the environment in Latin America and Asia. She has been in the Asia Bureau since 2001 and is currently engaged in USAID effort to address water security, glacial retreat, and the conservation of tigers and snow leopards. She has also developed and facilitated public-private sector alliances linking environmentally sustainable and socially responsible products to markets. She has been playing a crucial role in supporting conservation initiatives in various countries of Asia through USAID. Further about Dr. Mary can be read in the chat box. I would request Dr. Pramodji for the keynote remark. Thank you.
Warm greetings to all of you, and I would like to sincerely thank our co-hosts, the Royal Government of Bhutan, the World Wildlife Fund, and the Global Tiger Forum. Thank you, Dridhima, and I deeply appreciate the opportunity to work with both you and Manish again on big cat conservation. It is an honor to be joining you today, many of you who are champions of not only the tiger, but also of the conservation of all of nature. Within the fabric of life, known as biodiversity, the tiger is truly the golden thread. It is an apex predator. Conserving it conserves the myriad of species that roam or live within its habitat. In addition, there is hardly any species on the planet with the charisma and influence equal to that of the tiger. We can celebrate the successes of your many efforts over the years, including Bhutan's hosting of the Second Asia Ministerial on Tigers in 2012, and the launch of Bhutan for Life soon after. It is a great honor to be joining today its Executive Director, Dr. Wangda. Equally, it is an honor to join with Mr. Dhendup of the Bhutan Tiger Centre and Mr. Tshering of the Department of Forests and Park Services. Together and with their staff, their great work and dedication has resulted in an increase in tiger numbers in Bhutan. Similarly, we can celebrate increases in tiger numbers across South Asia through, for example, the Global Tiger Forums and the World Wildlife Fund's efforts, along with many other stakeholders, communities, governments, and non-governmental organizations. Yet we know that so much more needs to be done. Tigers, wildlife, and nature itself are under intense pressure from poaching, rapid urban development, and yes, even climate change. Today's webinar is an opportunity to engage traditional and non-traditional partners to develop innovations for conservation, whether it be wildlife-friendly infrastructure or conservation finance. This webinar is in keeping with the TIMPO Affirmative 9-Point Action Agenda on Tiger Conservation that was agreed upon in 2012 by tiger range countries at the Second Asia Ministerial. The action agenda specifically called for developing new partnerships with business and industry, which is relevant to our webinar today as we look for innovations in conservation finance. We recognize the significant pressures arising from the expansion of roads, rails, and transmission lines into Asia's last great areas of nature. As iconic species, the conservation of big cats advances broader efforts to protect other species and ecosystems upon which millions of people depend for their lives and livelihoods, and which underpin our societies and economies. Focusing on big cats, environmental safeguards like wildlife-friendly infrastructure and conservation finance are key because such a holistic approach can provide multiple benefits for all of us. We can serve an iconic species. We can serve an ecosystem under which humans and all manner of species depend. We can serve a watershed, supplying life-giving water to people. And the resulting healthy ecosystems provides resilience to climate change. USAID, WWF, and GTF, along with UNDP and the Global Snow Leopard Initiative, GSLEP, have been partnering on big cat conservation through a variety of activities, including GTF's past exchange visits between tiger range countries and the Big Cat Dialogues to the current ALIGN project. ALIGN stands for Asia's Linear Infrastructure Safeguarding Nature. It is led by WWF in partnership with the Center for Large Landscape Conservation. To demonstrate the importance of safeguards in wildlife-friendly infrastructure, Dr. Neil Carter estimated that nearly 24,000 kilometers of new roads will be built in tiger conservation landscapes by 2050. This is like building 6 new interstate highways between Boston and Seattle. ALIGN's work builds on the earlier Linear Infrastructure Safeguard Assessment for Asia, sponsored by USAID, called LISA, by the Center for Large Landscape Conservation. LISA also included training modules which can be found online and particularly ALIGN's website. USAID is very proud to have been able to continue this assessment through the realization and partnership with WWF and the Center on the ALIGN project. The goal of the ALIGN project is to enhance the development and implementation of effective, high-quality linear infrastructure safeguards that protect people and nature from harm. Its first objective focuses on policies and practices. It is strengthening the policy frameworks of government, private and finance sectors, and civil society stakeholders, while working towards effective application of natural resources safeguards for linear infrastructure that aligns with international best practices. The second objective emphasizes partnerships and engagement. It is enhancing partnerships to promote and support investment in and implementation of safeguards for linear infrastructure that lead to biodiversity conservation and ecosystem resilience in the face of climate change. And its third objective increases the capacity of stakeholders to contribute to the better management of natural resources by implementing high-quality natural resource safeguards for linear infrastructure and promoting and applying sustainable infrastructure development options. Those working in the finance sector are also key partners. The World Economic Forum's Global Risk Report identified biodiversity loss as one of the top 5 global risks in both likelihood of happening and impact. Paradoxically, governments annually spend 5 to 7 times more money on subsidies, some of which are directly harmful to biodiversity, than the estimated annual US $120 to $140 billion of global financial flows for biodiversity conservation. This makes today's webinar on conservation finance and safeguards even more important. Together, including all of us here today, we can build the necessary momentum for conservation finance and for safeguarding tigers and nature while providing for high-quality infrastructure and economic development and growth. We welcome your continued partnership in promoting tiger conservation. Our actions today to protect nature and its vital role in combating the climate crisis will provide a better future for all of us and all species. Thank you for the opportunity to join you today, and I'm looking forward to the future and our continued success. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mary. And the USAID has been working closely with WWF and Global Tiger Forum, and of course, several tiger range countries on the big cat conservation agenda. And given the development paradigm that is impacting a lot of our conservation areas, it is important that we talk about how the mitigation sets in, as well as how this the policy, the pre-phase planning, as well as the post-construction planning is taken into account. It is my absolute privilege to be working on this webinar with Bhutan. Bhutan also serves as the chair of the Global Tiger Forum, and it is one of the most important conservation leaders in the field of big cat conservation as well as habitat conservation. The country encompasses a protected area network with biological corridors, at least 10 protected areas, 7 biological corridors, and 1 botanical park encompass a staggering 51.44% of the country's land area, which is perhaps one of the highest in the globe, and especially in South Asia region, ridden by the impacts of climate change as well as growing human population. Despite the growing need of economic development, the country has been able to preserve its biological corridors, and it has a system where almost all of its protected areas are connected through natural biological corridors in the larger sphere. We have also seen that apart from doing a lot of efforts on the tiger front, on local community livelihoods, there has been pilot efforts on green infrastructure mitigation also. The Southern East-West National Highway has seen the construction of 2 to 3 elephant underpasses, and a lot of feasibility studies done after that have seen that the impact has been humongous in terms of the usage of these pathways by elephants such as animals. The data has also been able to provide a lot of information into the pre-construction phases of any project. So it also serves as a model for other range countries who are undertaking similar initiatives. And the post-construction safeguards that have also been monitored kind of give an outlook into what has been the larger impact of such structures, which not only exudes confidence, but also helps other range countries and other the field of structural engineering at large to take up such initiatives across their own countries. It's also important to point out that Bhutan has been one of the principal proponents of setting up their own sustainable financing mechanism. It is one of the only countries where initiatives that we'll hear more about later today have led to finance in perpetuity for conservation. Among all these efforts, of course, there would be challenges, and conservation as a field itself is ever evolving. And we'll hear more of them today from our eminent speakers. So without taking more time, I now hand it over back to Dr. Ridhima and look forward to all the esteemed speakers today.
Thank you, Monish. And with that, I would like to invite the first of our speakers, Dr. Pema Wangda. Dr. Pema Wangda is the Executive Director of the Bhutan for Life Fund Secretariat since 2019. Prior to the present position, he served as the Chief Forestry Officer, Watershed Management Division, Department of Forest and Park Services from 2012 to 2018. He also headed the Red Plus Readiness Project from 2013 to 2018. Sir has so many feathers to his cap that this short introduction was very difficult for me to introduce him. So for the further larger details we will be posting it in the chat box. With that, sir, we invite you. The floor is all yours.
I shared the presentation. I hope it is visible.
Yes, sir, it is.
Okay, thank you very much. So let me start with my presentation. First of all, I would like to thank the Global Tiger Forum and the guest speakers, Dr. Mary, Dr. Redima, Mr. Moinish, for all your kind words and for the opportunity to given to us to share our experiences. So thank you very much for the introduction and the invitation to this webinar. So without much delay, I would like to join my two other colleagues for today's webinar. It is indeed an opportunity for Bhutan to share our experiences with our neighboring countries, our regional, the Tiger Range countries as well. So greetings to all the remotely participating the audiences and the other panels and the moderator. Thank you very much once again. So Bhutan for Life is project finance for permanence. I think it's been already introduced. So I will briefly give a background on that later. And for today, I have chosen this the landscape on my slide, the first slide. It has a wide range of the lowland grassland, where Bhutan for Life also invested to manage the lowland grassland. So managing the lowland grassland is also important for the viable population of tiger in those areas. For maintaining the grassland, we maintain the ecosystem dynamics. So we provide the food resources to the ungulates and other prey species for the top predators like tiger and other cat species. So this is just an introduction to my presentation. And so to start with the project finance for permanence in implementations, I just will give a brief background on the project finance for permanence around the world. So in total, there are about 6 the project finance for permanence in implementation stage. And now we already have one more additional in Mongolia. The PFP financing has been closed and implementation yet to start. So to begin with, this in Brazil, the project finance for permanence, ARPA for life, and that also supported the avoided 265 hectares of deforestation. So by protecting the deforestation, which means protecting the habitat for any wildlife species. Similarly, the Great Bear Rainforest PFP in Canada has created over 1,250 permanent new sustainable jobs for the community members and 61 new businesses for First Nations in British Columbia. So taking the potential of supporting the protected areas and the habitats, it also creates enabling environment for economic opportunities for the communities, such as creating jobs and so on. So similarly, in Bhutan, of course, the Bhutan for Life, the first PFP in Asia, has also supported increasing tiger and snow leopard populations as one of its main milestones under Bhutan for Life. So we supported in protecting the habitat as well as in managing the corridors. So PFPs like Great Bear in Canada, the Costa Rica for Forever Costa Rica, Heritage Colombia, Arbor for Life, national parks in Peru are some of the 6 PFPs established around the world. And Bhutan for Life, as I mentioned, the first PFP in Asia, and now the Mongolia as second in the implementation very soon. So with this, what is now the project finance for permanence? So Bhutan for Life is the first project finance for permanence in Asia. So PFP, the Bhutan for Life, is an approach to durably conserve and finance the large networks of conservation areas to benefit the nature, people, and climate, and ultimately contribute to the 30-30 global commitment of maintaining 30 by 30 by year 2030. So this also contribute to the global commitment. So in the model behind the PFP for the Bhutan for Life, there are 2 parties, like transition fund is one component that is being very important to serve as a cushion fund to support the rural government of Bhutan in the initial stage for the rural government of Bhutan. And rural government of Bhutan in turn commits certain conditions that will enable for the implementation of the transition fund. So transition funds are the multi-party single closing, so that the individuals, the private individuals, the private individual donor funds, the multilateral funds, they all come together, and there is a set of the fund targets that need to be achieved. So this fund target is being assessed through the technical assessment for projection of maintaining the protected area network of the host country. Now, in this case, is the for Bhutan's PA network. So with the technical expertise, they assessed and try to the project the fund requirement for the I hope it's audible. Somebody is raising their hand.
Sir, please go ahead. We will address the questions in the end.
Okay. I thought not audible or something wrong with the network. So the target fund that is required for 14-year period is for the donor fund is about 40 to 45 million. That's the target. So until that fund is being achieved, the fund will not be disbursed. And on the other hand, the government of Bhutan committed to support 30 to 35 million USD for that the initiative. So at the heart of the deal, there is a conservation plan developed through the consultative approach, and there's a financial plan where the fund need to be dispersed for implementation of the identified activities. And such concepts, models are very important, and it is also advantage for developing the partnership, leveraging for further mobilization of fund, and it is of course innovative in nature and sustainable long term in the concept, as well as for taking the PA network management forward. So to have such initiatives in place, it is also important to have an enabling conditions. So for the Bhutan for Life, we have a very strong enabling environment, such as the leaderships, the visionary monarchs from the first king to now. I think the environment conservation is a part of the development policy and also in the programs and plans. So it is being deeply committed to conservation. And of course, there is a stable political system in the country, and that also has, the positive enabling environment in initiating such financing mechanisms. And of course, the economy of the country is directly benefiting from the ecosystem services that the protected area provides. Just to name them, the ecotourism is one, and the non-wood forest products. And there's so many other services like water services and so on are all, originating from the PA management of PA networks. And of course, Bhutan, as a mountainous country, we depend so much into the on the nature. And of course, the developing ecotourism industry and ecotourism, the nature-based tourism. And of course, the religion plays a very important, and the beliefs and the myths that upholds the reverence for the environment. So it's strongly still we have in place. And of course, there's the strong legal basis. The Constitution of the Kingdom of Bhutan uh, stated that 60% of the total land area to be kept under forest for all time to come. And then there's the law, the Act, Forest and Nature Conservation Act, that greatly protects the PA systems, network systems in the country. So these are some of the enabling environment that should be in place to implement the the financing or any models that helps to maintain and protect the habitats and also the network areas on a larger scale. And now, if you look at the Bhutan for Life landscape, and just to correct that, we have 9 biological corridors, 9 biological corridors, and we have the 10 protected areas. So it comes to about 19 plus the Royal Botanical Park. So 52% of the total land area falls under the protected area. And unlike any other parks in some around the world, we have people living within the park. So we take the people as part of the conservation management. So any financing mechanism to implement in the PA network should also benefit the local communities. So just to name some, in some of the core areas, in the protected areas, we support the solar initiatives, the off-grid solar. So it also gives an opportunity for the local communities to, utilize their time and resources for more meaningfully. Similarly, we provide the economic opportunities such as the ecotourism, a part of the the enterprise development and so on. So to have this, the network system also gives. If you look at the tiger photos, the tiger. Of course, I'm not an expert in tiger, but with all the camera traps set by our implementing partners in the field, the tigers that are found around 90 meters in the south Royal Manas National Park. It's also being found around 4,000 meters in the snow capped. So it really needs a huge areas for conservation for viable tiger populations. And of course, we need a stable prey populations to feed these the top predators. So we really need a network of large areas, and at the same time we cannot fully use all the areas for just protection, but also we need to take the people as a center for taking the conservation into as part of the conservation management. And now the finance mechanisms, like I said earlier, there are some conditions that need to be put into, and there are disbursed conditions for the fund to be disbursed to the host country. So the I have the financial model following, but here I'll just give a general background on the financing mechanism. So type of closing conditions. There are some conditions that need to be met, and there are disbursement conditions that need to be met by the Royal Government of Bhutan for the donor fund to be disbursed. So dark blue is a transition fund which is being secured, mobilized through the donors from the private, from the individuals, from the multilateral. So we have Green Climate Fund, we have private individual donors, we have the other individual the private donors that put their fund into this. And for us to disburse the funds to the Royal Government of Bhutan, the Bhutan government should meet some conditions such as net loss of protected areas, creation of new PAs, government maintains the baseline funds, and increase the government contributions. So basically, the government commitments, if you look at the graph, it increases over the year while the donor fund decreases. Our time period is for 14 years, but this is a general concept that I'm presenting here. So in the following graph, you can see more detail. Now, through the analysis with the consultative stakeholder consultation with the the park managements and all other stakeholders, it was projected that the fund of about 43.2 million is necessary to fill the gap initially, so that the government of Bhutan will prepare, so that the green line over here is the projection that required for the donor funds to support the rural government of Bhutan, because government initially the donor funds are being invested in more significant budget, so that they prepare their initial phases. At the same time, the rural government of Bhutan will increase their the contributions from the government funding by 5.2% annually. So we are in the 6th year, and the government has already met all the conditions that's being proposed, because we have signed the commitment with the government and the donors. So and then in the process, one of the milestone is to look at the internal funding sources. So we are now at the stage where we are working on the identifying one of the innovative ways of looking and innovative funding sources, where the government will that innovative funding should be coming from the internal funding, not any of the donor. So this will be looked into. We are in almost like 70-80%. We have already carried out the activity, and by end of this year we will have the internal funding sources coming in to fill the gap. The light blue the color here, the graph indicates the funding gap that need to be filled by the rural government of Bhutan. So there's the funding external sources through the internal within the government funding need to be put into the park management by year 10th, that is 2028. So there will be already identified some of the areas where the funding should be coming in. It could be like carbon trading, it could be from the green tax, it could be like the debt for nature solve, or any like ecotourism, peace, or any of those areas, or the carbon offset, from the flight, air ticketing, or so on. So these are things that we are looking at for now, but this will be very soon will be identified, and the government will put the fund into. And at the end of 14th year, the rural government of Bhutan will sustainably manage the PEA network without any external donor funding sources. And now, so far, BFL's achievements, I will not touch on all the achievements that we achieved, but to focus on this to this webinar. So if you look at the management effectiveness tracking tools, it states that about 78.13% we achieved by the PA management. And over the last 6 years, the BFL investment made a significant achievement of more than 17% increase. So which means our investment really made a significant improvement in the park effectiveness of managing the PEs. So that leads to the increase of tiger populations in the country by 131 tigers. Last year it's been declared, and 134 snow leopards. So these two are the key the species that has been identified as one of the milestones to increase the tiger population by 20%, but we achieved by almost like 27%. So it exceeded the targets. And of course, the habitat conservation, lowland grassland is very important for managing, and we need the balance ecosystem dynamics, so that we have the prey population that will fit the higher predators, the top predators, and so on. So it is important that the funding mechanism need to be looked at, not just for the tiger conservation, but looking at the landscape as well as for managing both the prey and predator. The dynamics need to be understood. And BFL as a whole holistic approach, we are looking at the mechanisms that will address both the ecosystem management approach. And maybe the few way forward that I can think of is that it is important for any other countries in the tiger region countries or anywhere around the world. It's important to establish the network of the system that connects the PA systems by the corridors. Especially the countries like Bhutan, we have already developed declared nine biological corridors. So similarly, I think it is important that the PS need to be connected by the biological corridors for free movement of the wildlife. And Bhutan Wildlife can serve as an example of looking at the financing mechanism into conservation. And then continually for perpetuity to support the management of PA systems, and that way the tiger population can still remain viable. And of course, with our the little knowledge that we gain over the last 6 years, we can share this opportunity to share our experience and knowledge at certain point of time with the regional countries, especially the mountainous country like Nepal, Bhutan, and India, and so on. And of course, it is important that these transboundary corridors for wildlife movement is important. As I've shown earlier, that there's a huge, the large areas of the home range of the animals like tiger requires really a large tract of land. And with this, I would like to thank all the remotely participating audiences and the panels here and the moderators as well. And these are all part of the conservation partners, the Green Climate Fund, WWF, Bhutan Trust for Environmental Conservation, and the private DT foundations from Thailand, and of course the Global Environmental Fund as well. So thank you very much. And if any questions, I'll be happy to share. If not, we can still share through the email and other through those the platforms. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Pema. That was very informative presentation. And especially I see something on the way forward on the transboundary corridor concept also. So holding that thought, we will have much more questions on that perspective. We would like to invite our second speaker, Mr. Tashi Dhendup, Deputy Chief Forestry Officer at the Department of Forest and Park Services within Bhutan's Ministry and Energy and Natural Resources, brings more than a decade of experience in wildlife research and conservation. Currently, he leads the Bhutan Tiger Centre, playing a vital role as the national focal point for tiger conservation efforts in Bhutan. His passion lies in researching and conserving Bhutan threatened species, including tigers, snow leopard, red pandas, and bear. With a master's degree in wildlife biology from the University of Montana, Tashi leverages camera traps and genetic analysis to gain crucial insights into these vulnerable populations. With that introduction, I would like to invite Mr. Tashi Dhendup. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you. I'll just share my screen. So is my screen visible?
Yes.
And am I audible?
Yes, you are, sir.
Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I would like to also join Dr. Pema Wangda in thanking WWF-India and the Global Tiger Forum for giving us this opportunity to speak on tigers and share about the tigers here in Bhutan. So I'll start off by thanking the host, and then I would also like to thank all the participants who are joining remotely. So I'll be talking about the status of tigers in Bhutan. And for those who do not know where Bhutan is, so Bhutan is a very small country located in the eastern Himalayas. So we are part of the Eastern Himalaya biodiversity hotspot. We are just 0.03% of the world's surface area, but then we are incredibly rich in biodiversity. We have a very wide elevation gradient. It starts all the way from 100 meters in the south and it goes all the way more than 7,000 meters in the north, and all that within a crow flight distance of less than 150 kilometers. So these wide elevation gradient has given a very good opportunity for diverse flora and fauna to thrive within this small landscape. So Bhutan has 9 species of wildcats, which includes tigers, snow leopards, common leopard, clouded leopards, and then we have the other small wildcats like leopard cat, jungle cat, Pallas cat, and so on. We are also home to more than 750 species of birds, more than 750 species of butterflies, and we are also home to more than about 200 species of mammals. And this is all possible because we have a forest cover of 70%, and we have a very well connected protected area network with covering 52% of the country. So we have 10 national parks and 9 biological corridors. So very recently, we added the 9th. So tigers have always been very important for Bhutan, not just ecologically, but also in our culture and tradition. So it is believed that the Guru Padma Sambhava, he first came to Bhutan flying on the tigers, and that was the time when Buddhism first came into Bhutan. And since then, you see tigers all over as paintings and as murals on our fortresses, on our buildings, and then they are also the only living member of the 4 protective animals of Buddhism. And tigers are also a symbol of power, a symbol of strength. And ecologically, we all know that tigers being an apex predator at the top of the food chain, they are very, very important for the ecosystem functioning. If you see a lot of tigers, it means their particular ecosystem or their particular habitat has a lot of prey that are able to support those tigers, and a lot of prey means that the whole habitat, the whole landscape is doing well. So they are indicators of forest ecosystem health. So in Bhutan, we have reverence for tigers in terms of both cultural and religious significance, as well as in ecological sense as well. So tigers in Bhutan can be found all the way from the southern plains in the southern foothills of the country, from 100 meters in places like the Royal Manas National Park, Phipsu Wildlife Sanctuary, Jomotshangkha Wildlife Sanctuary, and then they can be found all the way more than 4,000 meters above sea level. So we have the highest elevational record for the tigers across the Tiger Range countries at 4,400 meters. We got that evidence through a camera trap picture, but we also have evidence of tigers going all the way to 4,600 meters. So the tigers in Bhutan can be found across this wide elevational range, and we are seeing tigers moving using the high altitude habitats, not just for moving, but we are increasingly getting evidence of tigers living there and successfully breeding as well. So currently, Bhutan has an estimated tiger population of 131 as of 2021 to 2022. So we had the second nationwide tiger survey using camera traps. So initially, in the years around 1998 to 1999, we estimated about 74 tigers in the country, and that went all the way up to 103 by 2015. And in the last 6 years, the number has grown unprecedentedly all the way to 131, which is an increase of 27% in the last 6 years. So Dr. Pema Wangda was also mentioning about our goal at the Global Tiger Recovery Program document that was endorsed in 2010 during the International Tiger Summit. So there, As a tiger range country, our recovery goal was we want to maintain a stable tiger population in the country. And then even if there were to be an increase, it will be up to, we'll aim for about 20%, which would be 90 by the year 2022. But we already had 103 by 2015, and now by 2022 we have 131. So we have far surpassed our goal. And then also, according to the recent Global Tiger Recovery Program 2.0, in the analysis that was done to see how the range countries performed, or in terms of tiger recovery goals and activities and achievements, so Bhutan ranked third, which I thought was pretty good. So as per the recent tiger survey, we have an estimated density of 0.23 tigers per 100 kilometers square. And to achieve this, we had about more than 1,200 cameras spread across all the potential tiger habitats in the country. And then even though the nationwide, the density estimate for the whole country is 0.23 tigers per 100 kilometers square, we also have areas like the Royal Manas National Park in the south. Then we have the Jigme-Singye National Park in central Bhutan, and we also have Shemgang Territorial Forest Division just next to um, Jigme-Singye and above Royal Manas and Pumthang divisions, where you will see tigers at a density of more than 2 to 3 tigers per 100 kilometers square. So in Bhutan, the tigers are more or less equally distributed inside the protected areas as well as outside. So it's not just that the tigers are found just inside the protected areas. We have equal number of tigers outside in the territorial forest divisions. For example, among the protected areas, we have Royal Manas National Park counting a minimum individual of 29, at least 29, and then we have the Pumthang Forest Division about 21 individual tigers. So the challenges to tiger conservation in Bhutan is we have a small but a growing population of people, and most of our people are residing in rural areas. So 69% of Bhutan population is rural, so they are sharing space with wildlife. They are living in rural areas. They are depending on the natural resources such as timber, firewood, and so on. And then our unique protected area system. We have a unique protected area system where we have communities living inside the protected areas, and this is respecting the harmony that has always been there between people and nature, and then keeping that in mind, respecting that we have allowed that to happen. And when people and wildlife, they live together, we do have a lot of issues of human wildlife conflict and so on. We also see cases of poaching, although it is not very common. And then we have even seen a case of a tiger dying from disease recently. Recent as in it's been almost 4 or 5 years ago, but again, it was just one case, but it is still a threat. And of course, we have a lot of issues with human tiger conflict in some pockets of the country. So in order to address this, we are carrying out a lot of interventions. We are focusing on the tigers and their prey, as well as we are also looking at protecting the interests and livelihood of the communities that are living with the tigers. So in terms of habitat management, we are like again in the introductory part, Dr. Pema Wangda was mentioning about the grassland improvement that was done in the south. So we do a lot of this grassland improvement. We do a lot of waterhole restorations. We do a lot of enrichment plantations inside the forest. And then we also place a lot of importance on protection, and protection in the sense we want to equip and make our ranges capable and have all the facilities with which they are able to carry out effective patrolling. So we focus a lot on capacity building of rangers and equipping them with all the field gears. We also do electric fencing for protecting crops against wildlife, not necessarily tigers, but then the farmers also suffer a lot from crop depredation from bears, boars, deer. But by providing electric fencing, we are at least able to reduce the impact of wildlife on the communities. We are also striving on providing alternative sources of livelihood. So when people are dependent on just one source of livelihood, that can be like just agriculture, or it can be just livestock. And when there is cattle depredation that impacts the farmers economically. So we are working towards diversifying that. We have this program called Hunter to Hermit in Royal Manas. It was initiated in Royal Manas National Park, where we were able to successfully convert a group of poachers into living poaching as a source of income, and then practicing dharma, and then we have provided them with productive cattle, and then helping them with dairy production so that they also have a source of income. We are also focusing a lot on ecotourism, in consultation with other relevant stakeholders, in consultation with the communities. We are trying to see what areas can we expand in terms of providing livelihood, especially in the field of ecotourism. So Bhutan has a lot of potential for ecotourism, but it is not tapped to the fullest at the moment. So there is still a lot of opportunity. So we also have the insurance scheme. So it's known as the Geok Tiger Conservation SOPA. So it is an insurance scheme which is established at the Geok level, so which at the grassroots. These insurance schemes are managed by the local government officials. Our role here is to get everything in place, to get the bylaws in place, to get the seed money in place, and then once the system is in place, then it's taken over by the local government officials. They institute quick tiger response teams. If there is a human wildlife conflict, there is a designated team that will be there and respond to the situation. We also focus a lot on research and monitoring. It is very important to see how our tigers are doing, where they are at the moment, and then so though we do a lot of camera trapping, we do a lot of DNA, and very recently we are also entering into using eDNA for wildlife monitoring. So with all these interventions, I think it is working. Our tiger population is increasing. We are also seeing them in places that we have not seen them before. So this is the latest protected area system here in the country, with the inclusion of the biological corridor 9, which connects the Bumdiling Wildlife Sanctuary and the Saktan Wildlife Sanctuary in the east. So some of the interesting things that we have observed through our camera traps is like two tigers that are supposedly siblings, because we caught them together at the sub-adult stage on a camera trap in 2021 to 2022 Nationwide Tiger Survey. After more than a year, we are seeing them in Mongar, and then we are also seeing them in Trashigang. Like, one has gone to establish a territory in Mongar, and then one has gone to establish a territory in Trashigang. So these two places have been devoid of tigers for quite some time, but now it's good to see that they are slowly moving out. And then another interesting case that recently came in the news was the tiger then moved from Sikkim to Bhutan, and then that was very interesting. So, and we just wanted to see if that tiger ever was in our database, and we found that the tiger was recorded in the 2021 to 2022 Nationwide Tiger Survey here in Jigme-Singye National Park in central Bhutan. And it's amazing how the tiger moved all the way from there to Sikkim, where it was recorded in February of this year, and then in April the tiger moved back to Samsi. So all these movements across wide landscapes just goes on to show how well connected the protected areas in the country is, how good the habitat, the connectivity is in the country. So so these are the pictures. So the Tiger Action Plan of Bhutan. So we have had Tiger Action Plan since 2005. Now, currently we have the third one, which will run from 2024 to 2023. And our vision in this within the next 10 years is to secure a thriving and sustainable tiger population in Bhutan. And by 2034, by the end of this Tiger Action Plan, we want to maintain a stable tiger population through enhanced protection, improved habitat, and community engagement. So within this Tiger Action Plan, our the theme is basically four, which is we want to protect the tigers and their prey. We want to protect the habitat. We want to improve the habitat. We want to mitigate and address human-tiger conflict, and at the same time, we also want to continue monitoring our tigers. Yeah. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Tashi. That was very informative, especially because we would like to understand in coming discussion forum that regarding the biological corridors. Bhutan has the biological corridor and how they are conserving it in the event of development, also how the developmental projects are also infrastructure development is happening while conserving the biological corridors. We would like to understand that. We will be posing that question to you. Moving on, we would like to invite our third speaker, Mr. Ugyen Tshering. He is currently working as the Chief Forestry Officer at Jomotshangkha Wildlife Sanctuary. Sorry if I have pronounced it incorrectly. And the Department of Forest and Park Services. Mr. Tshering is a master's in forestry with more than 2 decades of services with the department. During his service, he worked in various capacities, including as park ranger and environmental educator. He has led participatory forest management program, coordinated livelihood activities for local communities within protected area, initiated zero poaching project, prepared conservation management plan for the wildlife sanctuary, along with participating in National Tiger Survey and National Forest Inventory. I would like to invite you, sir, for the presentation. Floor is all yours.
Thank you. Can you see my presentation?
Yes, sir, we can. You can put it on the presentation mode. Yes.
Okay, thank you, organizer, for this great opportunity. I will be talking a little bit about the safeguarding wildlife by minimizing the impact that is created through linear infrastructure. My presentation will be very short. I'll just talk a little bit about the area that I work, that is Jomotshangkha Wildlife Sanctuary. Then I'll little bit touch on the infrastructure development in my area and our intervention to minimize impact from this infrastructure development. Jomotshangkha Wildlife Sanctuary, it is a very small protected area, about 362 square kilometer, and it shares border with the Udalguri district of Assam and West Kameng district of Arunachal Pradesh. So it is far southeast part of Bhutan. We have around among 9 cat species in Bhutan, we have 6 cat species in the sanctuary, including the big cat, Royal Bengal tiger. And other important species are elephant, gaur, and other prey species, ungulates, for the cats. And now the issue here is we have 2 linear infrastructure development that is taking place across the wildlife sanctuary. And these infrastructures are indispensable for the people living inside the protected area as well as outside on the other side of the country. And my previous speakers already mentioned that we have people living inside the protected areas. So these infrastructure are indispensable, and we cannot deny the development of those infrastructures. The red line shows the road that is built within the protected, the wildlife sanctuary, and the yellow one is the transmission line. So if you look at this, this is the road that is going right through the middle of the wildlife sanctuary, and obviously it obstructs the animal movement because of the steep gradient that it has created for the formation cutting of the roads. And these are some of the examples that the transmission line that is passing through the wildlife sanctuary. So these are the 2 big major linear infrastructure that is crossing the wildlife sanctuary. So the small intervention, the low-cost intervention that we have undertaken is during the time of the construction itself, we have collaborated with the construction company to create a passage or to reduce the gradient so that the gradient of the slope so that our wildlife can move without any obstructions. And we have observed that the animals are using those passage. And we plan to install camera for long-term monitoring of the use of those passage. And within the 58-kilometer road that is passing from the wildlife sanctuary, we have identified around 14 locations where we need to create a passage or route for the wildlife to move, because these are the locations where the animals or use regularly, or these are the traditional routes for animals, especially elephants. We also have installed wildlife crossing signage nearby those wildlife routes to caution the commuters. In case of the transmission line, the only thing we can do at the moment is we ensure that the ground distance, the height from of the transmission line is maintained at a safe distance. We have recommended more than 6 meters from the ground so that the large animals like elephants and gaur can pass without any obstruction. As I have said earlier, within these 14 locations, we have created passage for few, and we are yet to complete the construction of the wildlife routes in other areas. But this project is ongoing and it's not completed because road construction is still going on. And it is likely to take another year to complete this road. So we are in the process of collaborating with the construction companies to create passage. But at this point of time, I'm pleased to inform here that the routes that we have created while construction is being used by wild animals. But our hope is that in future, we like to have this kind of underpass, overpass, passage for the animals. And it is being found successful in other developed countries. But at this point of time, we were not able to implement these technologies, mainly because of the shortage of the fund, because we are at the moment struggling to fund for the road construction, and this overpass and underpass for the wild animals is a second priority. But as one of the speaker, I think Manish, pointed out that some underpasses are being constructed in Bhutan, and it is in my area that it is there are 2 locations where underpasses have been constructed during the road construction funded by World Bank, and it's being used well. So there are positive indicators that those structures are being wildlife friendly. And my hope, our hope, and the hope of the wildlife in future is that within 58 kilometers of road, we are able to construct a few of these structures so that the animal can move freely within the areas. However, the wildlife conservation or wildlife conservation agency like us, we can keep hoping and carry the hope of wildlife for the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And then it is very much innovative. So in a nutshell, we don't have something like in particular just for the tigers, but whatever sorts of lean infrastructure that comes up within the protected areas as well as outside, it's more or less the same. You have to follow certain conditions have to be met.
Yes, I completely understand because even if the biological corridors are there where you can protect it, but as we saw in your presentation, two of the tigers which have been found in the area who have moved in the area where they were not in the previous time, that area definitely has infrastructure, and also it's like very rightly said, it's the guidelines are not very specific to tigers, but because tiger is there, the other co-predators and prey species are also protected under the umbrella. Because of that, focused on that, if we develop some guidelines on the smart green infrastructure, it can benefit the whole conservation program. So there's one more from Arundhati in the question. Are other ministries apart from Forest Department also part of Bhutan for Life initiative? If yes, what is the integration mechanism? This is for Dr. Pema. Would you like to take the question, sir?
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, the Bhutan for Life, our implementing partners, it's not only the Department of Forest and Park Services. As I mentioned in my presentation, we have people living within the park. So when we have the people in the park, all the ministries that are relevant to the communities are important to be taken into consideration. So we have Department of Agriculture, Department of Livestock, National Center for Hydrology and Meteorology, Department of Energy, and Department of Tourism. So all these are very relevant to the conservation as a partner. So we really need to make these, to bring those relevant agencies on board, and particularly to help support the communities. And doing so, I think it brought a lot of communities as a part of the conservation partners. So just an example, like we have the National Center for Hydrology and Meteorology. We helped to build the early warning monitoring stations in the dangerous Gulf, the flood areas. So we built that stations to to monitor the glaciers for the downstream, as well as the people living within the PA networks. And similarly, the solar initiatives, where we do not have the electricity, we supported the off-grid solar plants so that the communities can live, can access to the electricity. And for the tourism, we are trying to build the infrastructure developments so that the tourism activities can be incorporated in the PAs, so that the communities inside the park will be also benefited through the development of enterprises. So similarly, organic agriculture and so on and so forth. So we brought into a lot of the agencies. Of course, the main implementing partner is the Ministry of Energy and Natural Resources, the Department of Forest and Park Services. Thank you.
So in continuation, one of our colleague has asked this question. Richa poses a question to you. Sir, you mentioned carbon credits and carbon offsets as a means to raise finance or fund and close the funding gap. Can you share what is the stand of BFL on the carbon offsets? That is, will Bhutan consider creating a mechanism for the private sector to buy carbon credits and be able to use it for carbon offsetting?
Yes, our investment is mainly into conservation. So, and then one of the major milestone is the innovative financing mechanism, or so call it the sustainable financing of PAs in the future. So one of the opportunity is looking at the carbon as part of the financing mechanisms, but the ownership and the looking at the opportunities is not within the BFL, but it's within lying within the the government of Bhutan, but we are working very closely with the royal government of Bhutan in looking at how the trading of carbon or offsetting the carbon can be done. And I think the dialogues are being already initiated within we have the state-owned the enterprises and the state-owned the investments that are looking at the opportunities for getting those the financing support. But when it comes to private investment into carbon trading, I'm not so sure. I think it needs to be answered by the relevant the authority within the government of Bhutan. But for the BFL, we are pushing our agenda that the certain support through the carbon or through conservation initiative should come to the park management.
Thank you, sir. I think we would be liking to take this question. Is there any legal policy framework in Bhutan for the linear infrastructure safeguarding, especially for wildlife-friendly infrastructure construction with provision of underpass and overpass? Mr. Tashi and Mr. Ugyen both can be, I am posing this question to both of you because you can talk from Mr. Tashi, you can talk from the national policy and planning perspective, and also Mr. Tshering, because you have already looked into it from the on ground and worked with the departments to avoidance as well as construction of the overpass and underpass. So on what policy or what were the challenges also, if the policy standard policy is not available, what has been followed from the global practice or the existing Bhutan policies? Can you elaborate, both of you can elaborate on that?
Thank you. I think we have a legal provision. Recently we have developed forest and nature conservation rules, and in that one of the provision there is a provision where it states that any infrastructures that is coming up within the protected areas or in biological corridors, and if that linear infrastructure is inevitable, there should be a safeguard like underpass or overpass where the wildlife movement is so it's not obstructed. So there is a provision in our rules and regulations.
And even in terms of the environmental impact assessment, we take it very seriously. For example, from my recent experience with one of the proposed roads in south central Bhutan, so there was this road alignment, but before the road construction could start or proceed, it was mandatory that we do the impact assessment, and then a part of that impact assessment was doing a biodiversity inventory, and then really trying to see whether there are wildlife living in the area where the roads is proposed, and then whether it is obstructing any migratory routes of the key animals such as tigers. So we had to plan a camera trapping exercise throughout the landscape where the road is, and we had to see whether the animals were really using it, whether the road was passing through some areas which was frequently used by the animals, and then if yes, and again whether an overpass would be possible. So we have to propose such kind of mitigation measures.
So just to add on to Tashi and Ugyen, I think in especially specific to Bhutan for Life landscape, we are considering the social and environment safeguard as one of the important consideration. So any activity that is going through the park, we need to meet the criteria, social and environment considerations. It's very seriously taken into consideration, specifically in the BFL landscape. So, and on top of that, I think we have a strong legal basis to propose those the corridors or the passage infrastructures. Thank you.
So it's very true that like you also during your presentation said about protecting nature is the priority and very important for Bhutan. But at the same time, there have been Bhutan is not cannot escape the impacts of global climate change, especially when it comes to disaster and risk regarding disasters, looking into the geography and high mountain area. So in these kind of scenarios, especially the expertise as well as capacity building of your country experts regarding the green infrastructure or nature-based solution. You did mention about the nature-based solution tourism. Nature-based tourism has been very much part of the plan. But regarding the nature-based solutions when it comes to developing infrastructure or communities, livelihood schemes and stuff, do you think that more capacity should be needed for Bhutan, as well as experts from the global learnings from the global criteria can be implemented in Bhutan also? So I just posing this question so that any of you or all of you can elaborate on the challenges and the current capacity of the departments in this front, nature-based solutions.
So maybe from the funding perspective, we always consider and also allocate significant, the emphasis given to the capacity development in implementing our activities in the field. And I'm sure that even not necessarily the modern technology, but also the local traditional knowledge. Just to cite an example, for example, the solutions like we in the mountain countries, we have a lot of flash floods during the monsoon. And Ugyen is one of the chief forest officer in the park in Jomotshangkha Wildlife Sanctuary. They come up with a good mechanism to protect the river that is actually encroaching into the settlement. So they come up with the traditional knowledge and they're combining with the modern knowledge to build some structures that really help to protect the environment as well as the communities living in areas. Having said that, I think we also need the capacity building at the strategic, the positions. For example, the predictions and the modeling of the climate, predictions, as we are more prone to all the disasters related to climate. So we need those modelings, and then those modelings and the prediction need to be put into implementation. So we need a capacity from those areas, and we are investing quite a significant fund into developing the model, and then also supporting the implementing partners, building their capacity and implement those actions into the field. And one of the milestones again under BFL is the climate vulnerability assessment and the community assessment. And then we come up with the areas more vulnerable to climate change. And our implementing partners, Ugyen will agree with me, and Tashi as well, they come up with the adaptation plans. So these need to be implemented in the field by the colleagues like Ugyen and Tashi. So these are something that we are taking seriously. Thank you.
So add on to that, I would also emphasize that capacity building is definitely an opportunity for us here in the country. Sustainability, environmental friendly, and then being smart, green, or nature-based solutions. These are keywords among our policymakers, managers. We are aware about this, but not to the details. So I think there is still room for improvement for doing things more efficiently. So in that respect, capacity building will play a very important role.
So again, you want to add something on this front?
Not very different to my colleagues. I think nature-based solution is being practiced in small scale at the moment. And this is because the implementing agencies like us are not very much aware of the different types of nature-based solution and lacks capacity, especially the implementers. So I think, as Tashi said, capacity building is one of the initiative that we can explore. And like this environment conservation like cross-sectoral issues. So recently I traveled through this east to west highway, and I've seen like instead of a concrete culvert, now the Department of Roads have started using a mud instead of culvert, and later on these plants and trees grows from this mud and it's become permanent. So I was thinking that this is one of the like a great nature-based solution. So I think when it comes to nature-based solution capacity building, I think it needs to be across all sectors who are taking up the developmental activities.
Thank you so much. That's very well said. And what you have talked about is one of the bioengineering solution, which in India also it is being implemented currently. There are guidelines on that front, but it would be wonderful if further capacity or any way we as a community can contribute to Bhutan also in any possible way. So there are a lot of questions. I think we are going beyond time. Everyone has to leave for another meeting also. What we will do is we will pose these questions over the mail to you. And after what the answers will be shared with all the participants along with the recording. The recording of this webinar will also be uploaded on the WWF YouTube channel. And from there, we can revisit it also, as well as share it widely also. So with this, I think I would like to wrap up the webinar. If I would just invite Monish to give the concluding wrap-up remark, and then we can take your leave from this webinar. Thank you so much for this very informative webinar. Thank you very much for all the panelists and participants.
Thank you, everyone. And as I had mentioned earlier, it is always a pleasure to listen to Bhutan and its experiences, because they have been kind of leading specifically on the landscape approach that is much talked about now in the conservation fraternity. So the efforts are much beyond the protected area systems, and even within the GTRP portfolio, we have seen the high altitude tiger program, and Tashi ji was also mentioning about movement of tigers, the transboundary movement, which is being monitored through regional cooperation. So the efforts are not only within the country, but the outreach that they have with India and Nepal for the transboundary aspects of conservation is quite good. The transboundary joint efforts that have been taken over the years, and of course WWF has played a key role in working in that Transmanas conservation area. So both the countries have worked really well, and Bhutan, I think, continues to show us the way in this tough scenario where every day we are seeing natural calamities. We are seeing how the climate is coming back to take over what we have destroyed. So I think with that, it's been a very detailed webinar. We have seen the experiences of managing and monitoring finances and the supportive mechanisms. We have seen how a country-wide level, a protected area network, a biological corridor system, and the system for monitoring works. And I think both GTF and WWF will continue to work together with Bhutan and take these examples to other tiger range countries as well. So thank you for all your time, and it's been a pleasure listening to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you for having
Thank you.
us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.